Guys, if you can hold back comments, it takes a while for this video to get into the main point. People are struggling emotionally with this issue, and it's so important. I mean, they are going to look to your comments for advice. So it'd be great if you could just wait a few minutes before commenting until the main theme is introduced. Hey guys, it's Matt, and that's Bootsy sleeping back there. Just got back from Target. It's basically like going to another planet. I don't watch any news. I haven't for almost 2 years. If anything's really important, you guys will send it to me. But you can tell what's going on. You can take the temperature regarding CV. Just the once a week I go to Target, sometimes once every other week. There were more masks than I've seen in 3 or 4 weeks, and even I don't know, even like 20%, 15 to 20% of the workers were wearing masks, which had dropped to down to almost nobody. So something must be going on. Say kicked up a certain news story is running. I don't know what it is. I don't care to know what it is. You can just take the temperature of the entire country by going to get paper plates and potato chips at Walmart. They will just whatever the news says. Oh, react this whatever. You guys, you saw the statistics, some of the statistics, which I'm still looking at now, of what Google provides for the channel. And first off, for what they provided me in June for prior month May, they prided up my avatar. They put the rainbow. They didn't ask me about that to put the rainbow around my avatar. And people ask me, some people might not know what is that mask all about. My favorite kung fu movie from the late 70s as a kid was called The Five Deadly Venoms, and that's the centipede. They wore masks because they hid their identity from each other. If you just YouTube search, opening scene, Five Deadly Venoms, you'll see where I got it from. But what's really funny regarding the statistics is, guys, I'm going to talk about we'll dive into the reality discussion and some important points. And people are really struggling in many ways, but there's also this incredible wave of nostalgia and trying to hold on to the past, or basically saying what it really is saying goodbye to the past, saying goodbye to a reality that no longer exists, and the incredible emotions that's swelling up in people. I'll get into that. It's happening to me. I know from your emails it's happening to many of you. I got a call from somebody that's a long-term friend of the channel yesterday. I talked to Greg the day before that. Every real people are going through the same thing. So we'll talk about that. But just regarding the statistics, so is it 400 and I'm looking at it now. For this is provided in May for the prior month, April. 460 new subscribers on 387,000 views. 460 subscribers on 387,000 views and 6.5 million minutes watched. If that's not a degree of credibility, I don't know what is. But hopefully the content and some of the things we talk about, it provides its own credibility, of course. But if I literally there's a bridge or several bridges. I'm thinking of the railroad bridge, the R5 line that goes into Philadelphia and 30th Street Station, Route 30 and Route 100 right over here. If I went up and rappelled down the cement bridge and I just spray painted across the top, Quantum of Conscience, and I had a new channel just started, new channel, it was a cooking channel, just spray painted the bridge, I would get 460 or more than that subscribers if I spray painted the bridge. So this is, ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Talk about being in a box. People come to me and they say, Matt, I'm going to start a new channel or restart my channel. Or if you're going to talk about the things we talk about, you won't, if I started new today and nobody knew who I was, I hadn't been doing this for 12 years, I would struggle to get 1,000 subscribers. But maybe I could get a quick 5 to 10,000 because it might not know who I am. It might not put me in that box right away. how many YouTube channels are there? Millions and millions. So the bot is sophisticated, but is it that sophisticated? So I take that back. Probably could until I was noticed, but once you're noticed and they put you in that box, you can't grow. Talking about the things we talk about just can't grow a subscriber base like we could 2008, 10, 12, 14, even up through 16. Kiss can't happen today. Um, Dan, but it, so basically what I have 80 some thousand. I mean, this is almost 12 years going back to over two channels, and even that was there were some months where when they didn't have me in the box that the subscriber numbers jumped up, but nothing like some of these fake truth channels. Dan and I have looked at a few. I haven't talked to Dan at Scarab Performance. He used to do a lot of Mandela Effect videos. Haven't talked to him for years. Hope he's doing well. But we used to talk a lot, and we had looked at some statistics for some channels. He was really good on the analytics. I don't bother with. I don't even know where to go other than that email that YouTube sends me, and we saw some fake truth channels shoot up 10 to 20,000 a month. I mean, give me a break. 10 to 20,000 a month. So yes, if I have 80 some thousand, it's a 12-year, almost 12-year slog going back to Texas Shrug or Texas Shrugged book. So it's not, but even so, I wouldn't. There's no way they would still put me in a box relatively quickly because the bot is so sophisticated. Anyway, guys, the video from yesterday. I hope you like the Philly captain. People ask me that. Do people really talk like that? Yeah, and now that maybe not as thick as the Philly captain, but there's a few million people in the general area that talk that way. Not quite as thick. It's not Northeast Philadelphia is a little different from South Philadelphia. I believe his accent is a little bit more South Philadelphia, I believe. Sorry, Philly captain. But it extends down the Atlantic City Expressway or towards Cherry Hill, Media, Broomall. I mean, there's millions of people that speak that way, but not quite as thick. I used to have a degree of it. I've kind of gotten rid of it. I lived in California for 6 years, and they made fun of it. Saturday Night Live skit made fun of the mayor. It was the HBO series Mayor of Easttown when they got the British actress. She speaks the Queen's English. Forget her name. She was the star of Titanic. I can't remember her name right now. And they got her to do the Mayor of Easttown HBO series about crime investigation, like up here in Allentown, Easton, Bethlehem area, where they still carry a lot of that accent. And it was, by the way, one of the worst shows of all time. And it was so depressing. I watched one episode and I turned it off. But basically, the area that Billy Joel sung about. So we're living here in Allentown. That's kind of where Mayor of Easttown. And the Saturday Night Live made fun of it. They would say she murdered they murdered me daughter. They murdered your daughter. Yeah, they murdered his daughter. And it didn't come off. I mean, she couldn't pull the accent off. What's her name? I forget her name. It doesn't matter. Please don't comment. We know who it is. She couldn't pull the accent off. Why? So it was almost like they did it as a joke. Why would they get a British actress who quote speaks the Queen's English to come in and try to do one of the most hardest accents to? No doubt they would say it's one of the hardest to replicate. It's not. I mean, a Southie Boston is way easier, or in Australia, certain parts of Australia, way easier than this Philly accent. You heard the Philly captain yesterday. Anyway, so guys, let me look at my notes here, and we'll get into talk about some more important and serious things. And just a few more quick things before getting into the main topic. I don't know what I said coming into this video about hold back your comment, please. I'm not trying to tell you what to comment on and what not to, but I'm just telling you that the people that look to the comments or to look to get your advice on dealing with these extremely important emotional issues, it's basically what many of us are going through is a form of trauma. There's no doubt about it. It's too important to the people that look to the comments here as a sense of community than to waste a comment that it was Kate Winslet, Matt, that was on. We know. I mean, that's why I'm not trying to. I guess there's no way to do this without coming across like an asshole, telling you what to comment on. I'm just saying it's not for me. It's for the people that are like, will hear with what I'm about to talk about. I know I need to get to it, but they'll say, yeah, I'm going through that same thing. And are most of the comments going to help that person get through it, or are most of the comments going to be about a new Mandela effect, or that it was Kate Winslet? So, okay. Couple quick things. What else? Oh, guys, I did want to mention, that last segment, when a truth channel is growing, or a relatively new truth channel could potentially grow by leaps and bounds, it still may be possible. It's certainly more difficult today, but I don't know if I was clear in that first section. Then I believe that that channel is talking about what the system wants them talking about. It doesn't mean they're a paid or a shill or in on it, or most truth channels are not, on anybody's payroll, but many of them are simply talking about things that what I believe the system would want them talking about, which, although seems to expose them, is still keeping people in a box and away from the ultimate truth. So I don't mean to imply all these truth channels they're paid by some deep state or something. No, they're probably trying to do the best they can. They're misguided. They're saying things that, in a way, the system likes, because even though it may expose truth, it hides the ultimate truth, and the system may promote that, or probably does promote that, but not like it did in 2012 through 2016. And if by that rationale, Matt, if we come back and your channel has jumped to 120,000, we knew you were bullshit because you were then promoted. Is that what that's the reverse psychology that I just used against the Google bot? Well, not necessarily, because I have a 12-year track record here. I didn't just come out of the blue. The old guard would say, it probably's come up with a few things over the years. So, it's reverse psychology against the Googlebot. Yeah, Googlebot. But you understand what I'm saying. Okay, if I jump up to 120,000 in a month or two, be skeptical of my channel. But you know what I'm saying. All right, was there any other thing I need to? Well, one last thing about going into Target today, and I wasn't clear on this. It relates back to the old ship of fools sailing away. Your friends, neighbors, family are on the ship of fools on the Pacific Princess sailing down the river of insanity. And when I said, we're jumping off the back and we've swam to the shore, and we're waving the Pacific Princess and Isaac and Gopher goodbye. It's not that simple, because we can't subsist then on the banks. I've got to go to Target. I've got to get in my dinghy. I've got to go back into the ship of fools to get my oil changed, or to go to the dentist, or to go to Target. And I'm in Target today, and I'm just going, this is like the main deck of the ship of fools. It's surreal when I go into a place like Target or Walmart, based on what's happened to all of us and what they've laid down on the world in the last 2 years. It's like, this is the main deck of the ship of fools. The moment I walked in today, and guys, anybody's screaming, get to it, because this is probably how I'll title it. You're right at this point. I've been too long-winded, but it is a Friday night, and these are going to go. It's not the old-fashioned radio show, but it's going to go a little bit slower. I hear you. I will get to it because it's such an important issue. Walk through one woman's. What the heck? One woman is showing another woman's social media. This woman was attacked, and here's the park, and oh, do they just the look? I'm sorry, I don't want that to come off as callous, but it's like everybody that ever has an issue, she'll identify it via her Facebook feed, and then their friends will follow it. I'm sorry if anything bad happens, but what's happening today versus the 70s and 80s, before we had the social network and all the Facebook and all that. The same attacks were happening, the same shootings, the same problems, the same perverts. It just seems 1,000 times magnified today, every little thing, because it pops up on the social media. So I walk through the door. Here's one. They're hanging over the phone, talking about some attack on Facebook, and I'm going, I'm sorry. Maybe that's I'm just saying it's no more now than it was. It's just people are so interested in it because they're little damn devices. So then it's like, oh, mask, mask. Oh, something must have happened in the world. All these masks. So I don't care to know what it is. And I'm just going. This is the main deck of the ship of fools. I expect like Isaac to have a little tiki bar over here. Would you like a pina colada and an umbrella? No, I'm just shopping. I'm going to be in and out quick. No, Isaac, go bother somebody else. So and you get to the damn scan. There's never any in the morning. There's never anybody real checking you out. It's all self scan. I'm doing the damn. I'll get to it. The cat food. So I buy six fancy feasts. So I just do the same one. I hold the five and I go one, two, and then the damn bell. Beep, 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 beep. You are being monitored. Yeah, a cameras because I guess it didn't like the way I was scanning. Beep, beep, beep. I mean, what's the next offense? This is first offense, first strike. If I take out eggs and I scan them wrong, is there going to be some kind of electronic device that puts pins my hands behind my back? Anyway, I checked out NyQuil a while back, and some employee came up to me and was like, beep, 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 beep. This is a controlled registered substance. I thought they were trying to track it because of potential CV. And it's like, you need to see my driver's license to fucking buy NyQuil? It's like, that's also a presentation of the Big Brother police state, very similar to what we talked about yesterday. Hey, Bootsy got up. All right, main topic, main issue, main subject. And I'm going to ask again, hold back comments at least for 5 more minutes because I have to lay it out and then you have to decide how to provide your best advice to others that are going through this, how you're dealing with it, which one of, I have three or four things written down here as to what I think we're going through, why we're going through it. I'll just to, if I've lost your interest because I've been too long-winded up till now, one of my main reasons that I wrote down here, and the one I'm sticking with if I had to put my chips on, is we have an incredible sentimentality or longing for the past because I believe we're done here. Whatever, whenever, or however we experience this prior, whether you want to call that reincarnation, it's not always that simple. It could be aspects of your higher self that is ready to just get out or disengage from these sort of 3D reality systems. I believe in the main, where I'm going to put my chips, although I'll present other possibilities, is we're done here. We're done here. And if you're truly done here and you don't have 100 more lifetimes, or the spiritual part of you that's not here is not going to go into 3,000 more reality systems that where you experience things like you do here on Earth or have a physical experience. If you're completely done, that brings an incredible sentimentality or a nostalgia, waves of emotion. And whatever again, I just started in terms of laying out the possibilities. Let me lay out some other possibilities. But one thing would be awfully strange if you're a real person listening to this and you're saying, "The hell are you talking about, dude? I don't, dude, that would be out of sight. Dude, I don't have no waves of emotion. I'm not sentimental like Matt talks about months ago. Like, oh, Belle, when she was alive, my cat, she played with that little piece of cardboard that somebody put their cigarette out on, and because Belle played with it, so I want to keep it. And I think there's a reason many of us are going. If you're not going through this, if you're not going through it, I'm not going to say you're not real, like you're some sort of cardboard NPC. We all do different, experience different things. You might be just as real as all of us. You have the same insight that we do. You may be a younger soul. You might need to do more of this, and that's not just about reincarnation. I'll talk about some different theories there as well. Um, so but look, I often I say I know I can't speak for you, but I know a lot of you are going through this. And if you're not going through this at all, maybe the rest of this video is not for you. But I've just heard this and talked to enough people. And let me just 1 minute. What is it? Okay. Again, this sentimentality and nostalgia for what we're being tricked, but it seems like for the past or what existed for us in the 70s and 80s or the lifestyle we used to live and or the lifestyle that's been taken away from us now. And I think that's a little bit too simple. It seems like, oh, the way, Greg the other night talked to me about going to a Kiss concert. Back in the day when he was younger, he liked Kiss, and I mean, just some of the things Greg and I will reminisce about a lot of the old world that existed. And it's not that simple. It's not like, well, yeah, Matt, they took all that away from us because of CV. We can't we don't enjoy groups the way we used to, and when there are groups like your sick family reunion, there's fear imposed, and they've taken that from us, Matt, and that's where the sentimentality and nostalgia is coming from. And no, it's that's on the surface that it might seem that way, and that's a symptom. That's a very obvious interpretation, but to me, it's much deeper, much deeper. And I guess the best way to do this, I'll just give you my way out theories, and then we'll work back into it so you kind of understand where I'm going with this. And it's not just kind of like it's like a real emotional longing, tearing up type thing. And it's not well, it's not like missing the A team. It's okay. Let me get to this. You'll understand where I'm going with this. You know how hard this shit is to talk about, guys. There ain't no speech comm class that was presented at Penn State to talk to how do you get this shit out. Sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place. Um, let's start with the easiest example first then. The old reality is gone. Well, we know that, Matt. No, I'm talking literally gone, metaphysically gone. Like something happened on a certain clear September day in 2001. Like the people that some of you will, even some people in our community call them crazies. And if some people in our community call some of these people crazies, that's saying something. But I don't take anything off the table at this point. Some people in our community say complete shift of reality. You've heard people say we were even if they even relate it to the galaxy, which most people here don't. We don't abide by no Neil of the grass-fed bison's view of what the galaxy is. But how else are they going to put it? They'll say Sagittarius arm, Orion arm, or it doesn't matter if they have a view of the galaxy the way the voice box of Stephen Hawking presents it or not. What these people are saying, what Gus is saying here, is this reality is completely different. It's subtle changes. People are Mandela affected, but the old world is gone. So it's not like they took this away from me or they changed society. One of the ways people may, potentially believe we have this incredible emotional or sentimentality swell up of emotion, it's because we know deep down it literally doesn't exist. Not that these creep assholes just molded society and did things to us, where we can never get a vacation back without, email all the time and phones, and not just talking about that. That is possibly one way to explain it. That Matt, you're getting too complicated, or I'm trying to present all viewpoints here. These people are too complicated. We need to switch no Orion arm, Sagittarius arm. We're dealing with a evil genius bunch of creeps here that mold society in a very sick way, and you've talked about it yourself, Matt. It's dehumanizing. It's taking away, and we don't like the word human, but sometimes we just have to speak in the nomenclature that we're most familiar with. I don't even think that's the right word, but who cares? It's dehumanizing, Matt. And the simplest way to explain it is the emotion, the sentimentality, the emotion that's swelling up in people is that the human experience, their word, but what else am I going to say, has been destroyed. We have something here called Me TV. I don't know if it's all over the country. It's called Memorable Entertainment. It shows the Waltons every so often. Good night. If you're over age 40, you know what the F I'm talking about. Good night, Billy Bob. Good night, John Boy. John Boy's spanking it in his bed. Good night, John Boy. What's that weird noise up there? You touching yourself again, boy? Sorry. That Walton's experience, family living with family. We can, hey, we can have problems with our family, but grandparents in the same household helping to raise the kids. And if you don't, if you fight with your family, fine. But then if then a sense of community, not exactly what the Amish may have today, but a sense of community with neighbors helping neighbors. Some people may say, Matt, we didn't jump no galaxies. They've robbed us of the human experience. of what we were intended to do in our very the fibers of our very being. They've taken that from us. Okay, that of course that is much more believable, or it's easier to get there than these way out crazy theories. I'm just keeping everything on the table. But just something, if it's just the creeps where they've taken a kind of what could be considered a very enriching, rewarding life, they've taken it away from us via email and everything else they've proposed on us, that your neighbor just thinks this is just the normal evolution of where modern society goes. You conspiracy people. No, it's not the normal evolution of where a normal society goes. Every bit of it has been planned out to in a devolution of quote the human experience. And why they do that we've talked about many times. It's not the point here, but so it might not be jumping realities, but the point here is why the sentimentality and the rush of emotion constantly, and then oh look, Hogan's Heroes is coming on. I'm going to remember what it was like back then, and Greg's telling me about constant childhood experiences, and we're going through these things, and um, we have, in terms of like the remedy for it, or how we deal with these emotions, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but it is probably appropriate to say now this is a good thing. If you're crying once a week because of something in the past, and even if you're getting a little angry, thinking these creeps robbed me of this, it proves you're absolutely real, absolutely you're the realest, most genuine thing here if you're going through these types of emotional experiences. So the first part is, why are we going through this experience? And if the old reality is gone, then there's that sliding scale. We'll agree or disagree on what number to place on the scale. So the old reality is gone. Matt, as usual, it's always this metaphysical mumbo jumbo with you, and in most of these events, the men in black do come in, Matt, and they pay and threaten people, and they can manage all these conspiracies, and it is possible to understand it using normal means. You're always going into the way out, into the mystical, and Matt, it's the same with this. Um, they robbed us of our humanity. They introduced their technology. They convince us to go off and take a job somewhere where we're thousands of miles from our family. They convince us to go live by ourselves, where we have no sense of community. The little apartment building I lived in Los Angeles, which is off Via Marisol exit of the 110, going on the 110, going into downtown Los Angeles. It was technically East Los Angeles, and got a haircut down there off Sepulveda. Didn't speak to that woman for 3 years. She spoke no English, and I mean no English. The whole community, it was all Spanish because East LA. We're in this community up top. If you put a card key and a gate opens, so we weren't, AK-47 to death. There was the first week I got there, some dude shooting off some AK-47. I didn't hear. I didn't hear. I didn't hang out the window and be like, "That's the distinctive sound of your enemy from Heartbreak Ridge." But I read about it in the news. I'm like, this guy's shooting off this. He was right down the bottom of the hill doing it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm glad this is a gated community. Point is, no sense of community. Not only did I not know the woman who cut my hair because we had a language issue. I didn't know my neighbors. I knew the door after door after door inside this apartment building, indoors. I knew the neighbor across the hall. He was a doctor. I guess he was not just a grad student, more like you could say his residency for being a doctor, USC, or orderly or residency, whatever. It's one step. You're a real doctor, but it's right after you get out of school. He was a resident. I was in my late 20s. I didn't know the person to my left or my right. Lived next to them for years. I guess one time they came over and asked me for something, but you know, one or two words exchanged. This is what this is. This not milk system has done this to all of us. They've robbed our humanity. So, is it gotten to the point where it's such a degree of dehumanization that we start getting emotional and we start longing for the past? It's possible, guys, but I think that that explanation in terms of what these creeps and these Loch-Nars are capable of, I think that's too simplistic. I think I think the old reality, we get emotional and sentimental over it. I think the old reality is gone, but literally gone, like metaphysically. And if you believe that, it doesn't matter how you describe it. We jumped from the Orion to the Sagittarius, or the opposite. It doesn't matter. If they've if well, when those towers came down, it was it was some sort of dark ritual beyond anything we possibly can imagine as quote a regular normal person. Um, it shifted it shifted reality in some way, and the symptoms of that are evident all over the place. And when we talk about stalled century, this isn't normal. It's almost like they stall the century out to keep to keep powering their magic. I'm not. This is beyond my pay grade. I don't know how to talk about it. But you can notice the symptoms. Vanna White still turning letters. Jim Cramer in a few years will be pushing 20 years with his nonsense booyah. And this shit just keeps coming back and keeps circling around and over and the same stuff. Um, is that what, even to a degree, is that what Top Gun Maverick is about? But for some reason they had to make that good, which proves right there. Everything I've ever said about Star Wars being made bad on purpose proves it. They can make a good movie. Part of the truth community, it's like they forgot that or something. Like they, no, they can make. Go watch the Peaky Blinders. Series 6 is struggling a bit, but the way it's shot, some of the tension and drama, the way they use music, the storyline is lacking in Peaky Blinders 6. I think Polly died. The real actress died. They had to do some emergency reshooting. But even so, it's 1,000 times over what Star Wars is. And they made that bad on purpose in order to destroy something or part of their stalled century magic. And Top Gun Maverick proves they can make a good movie, but it's still stalled century, good or bad. It's here we go. It's like now they're reaching back to 1980. What was it? 86? Was it 85 or 86 for Top Gun? And it's like it's almost like every it's Levette. I haven't seen Levette stuff for a long time. She's over on Brighteon, I believe. But she would always talk about they just constantly find ways to stall out time itself. And I don't understand that. I don't think real people will ever understand that. We don't attend the creepy parties where Jared serves his pigs in blankets. But do you think Jared's ever heard me talk about that? I don't. Whatever happened to him? Did he fly back to his home planet? Oh, he said planet. But there's something to it because we can see the symptoms of it. It's the stalled century. It's not just, the first grade truthers explain it away. Matt, they have no creativity, or it's just about making money. That's not even first grade truth. Matt, they know they can recycle these themes because it's a quick buck. That is what's below kindergarten. Is there nursery school truth? No, in some way it's related to a dark ritual magic to stall out the century and potentially after 2001 to shift reality off to the side somehow. Matt, what the hell does that mean? I don't know. I don't. There's no other way to explain it. You can kind of sense what's going on, even if you can't verbalize or explain what's going on. Hi, Zara. People want to see you, Zara. Here you go, Zara. Come here, Zara. Come here, Zara. So guys, we're in the presentation here. It's explain why we're getting this rush of emotion, the sentimentality. Belle played with this piece of cardboard, so I'm going to cry over this piece of cardboard. Almost. And this flush of emotion comes, nostalgia for the past. And if reality is literally, moved, or it's not the old reality literally is replaced, like people talk about reality overlays and things like that, then there could be a potential longing for a not just for Sanford and Son reruns, but a past that doesn't exist. Now, I think I'm going to go even farther than that in terms of the way out. I'm going to go even farther and say, um, I do believe this as my leading theory on what's going on. Matt, just put the cat down, really, Matt. Jeepers, creepers, Matt. Put that cat in its place. I believe we're done here. We are done here. Matt, I don't want to see that thing's ass. Okay. Um, we've had go-arounds before. That's blasphemous to certain Christians I know that are here at this channel. Matt, there is no reincarnation. Okay, there's different ways. It's not just about the stereotypical reincarnation. There's different ways to talk about it. Tony would talk about the highest spiritual aspect of you, higher self, having multiple players in different games at the same time, not in the same time period. So, Matt, you're just an aspect of higher self, and there's hundreds of not Matts, but things like you on Earth, yeah, in different time periods. Well, how would that work? How could it be at a different time? Because obviously, time is just a ridiculous construct. It's all fake. It's just something so we can negotiate, movement, the movement of time through space, and when he told me about that, it made perfect sense to me that a higher self could have various aspects in different time periods, but set up so the way I interpreted from what he told me is so they would never encounter each other. And I don't know if he's talked about this, but other people have talked about why does this have to be the only game in town, this Earth thing? There could be a lot of different realities like Earth. That doesn't mean go blast off in some Elon Musk rocket ship and travel to planets. It's if we could get out of here far enough and look down, what we would find is nothing like what NASA says, of course. It's just that, whether they believe it or not, they're wrong. Well, then you tell me what it is, Matt. I can't, but I can tell you definitively that they're wrong. I mean, we know that. And of course, it's deception on purpose. Of course, no, you're not at the highest level. They're not trying to do their best, and they're just wrong. They're trying to deceive. They're part of the whole deceptive mechanism that's here. But to me, if an aspect of my higher self has 100 different mats or thousands in different reality systems or Earths at different time periods, when we talk about past lives, we always think linearly. Oh, I was in a past life, that's why I have two wood-burning stoves. So I'm always afraid that if I don't have enough firewood, I'll go out in a snowstorm and make sure I have enough cut, and always have to have backup firewood. Someone said, Matt, you must have died of in the frost or in the snow in a past life. And then we think linearly that happened in the past. Well, maybe in another life I did die in the snow or froze to death, but it's all probably happening at the same time on top of each other. It's just, you know, idiot senses and really rudimentary perceptions that make us think that it's the past. But anyway, that's another talk about that some other time. So an aspect of higher self maybe has collected enough information from you, and it's ready, Tony used to say, to exit the game, ready to walk out. And maybe it's a lot of the work we've done here, and the combination of work we've done to benefit. The best way to think about it is not like higher, just the aspect, the more palatable way for many people to think about it is just the spiritual aspect of you that's not here. We all kind of agree with that. Even Christians can I believe agree with us with that there's an aspect of us spiritually that's not here, where we would say, it's your entire spiritual essence and soul is in the avatar. Most of us would say no, no. The entirety of us is not in the avatar, and I think most of us here would say the entirety of us spiritually, however you differentiate between soul and spirit, the semantics of how it's pointless to keep going back and forth. Well, what's really soul? What's really spirit? Who cares? If I get that wrong, I'm not going to advance past go and collect my $200. It doesn't matter if I have that a little bit wrong. There's a piece of us that's not here, what I call the snow globe of Earth. And the higher self, it's like you're subservient, you're some little worm, and the higher self is, and it's like the higher self is the Aldi in the Apple TV show Severance, and you're the worker, the innie. We've talked about that. We need to revisit that again. It's an interesting concept. But the way I don't like to think of it as like this, I'm just some servient slave here to higher self. Maybe we are, but I'd rather think of it as just an aspect of me is not here. It's kind of all part of the same thing. And maybe we've done enough work where we're out of here. We've done enough. And Matt, you contributed 40%. Another aspect of higher self, me, you, is over here in this reality system. They contributed 10% in terms of discovering the truth. This game doesn't provide us anything anymore, and we're out of here. Now, think about it. If you knew you were out of these reality systems, completely out for who knows how many trillions of years or forever, okay, do you think you would be sentimental? Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, these potentially the waves. And if somebody's like, again, I'm not getting these waves of sentimentality, you may have a lot more work to do. Or you're contributing 20%, your higher self has all these other minions, that's not the right word. I take that back. Other worker bees working for the higher self are contributing nothing. So your higher self's like, yeah, you're doing the job here. Um, Michael, who just emailed me or whatever, you're doing the job, but I need more information. So we're all going back into these sick ass reality systems a lot more times. So they're not going to be sentimental. Knowing you have to do it again or more is coming removes sentimentality. Knowing more is coming removes sentimentality. Even like any situation like that, like if Gilligan's Island was real, Gilligan's Island was real? If Gilligan's Island was real and say there was no Gilligan, you were Gilligan. And don't be thinking every time I'm not going sick thoughts with Marianne and Ginger. Why do we have to go, men have to go there every single time? I'm not talking that way this time. Just if y'all had relationship, not that kind of relationship. This just popped into my head. Okay, nobody touched each other on Gilligan's Island. A bunch of eunuchs say. There would still be the sentimentality of we're being rescued. We're never going to have, as tough as this was. I mean, had to go 50 days in a row of eating bananas and only bananas because we couldn't even catch fish. There'd be a sentimentality that it's being left forever. And I think I really believe that's what we're going through. I mean, think back to leaving, even as a kid, we're not sentimental or we don't really care much and don't have those emotions as a kid. But I remember even like, I don't know, like the last day of, I went to Roberts Elementary School. I mean, I'm just saying, I even had a sense of it as a kid, like, okay, this is it, and it was like maybe even as a kid, I might have taken that one last look back at the elementary school. And kid has no perspective. No, kids don't care about this stuff. The last day, as you get older, the last day of high school, we may have taken that last look back at the high school for just a little longer, and maybe just for a second, just realize, wait a second, a little bit of nostalgia. This is the last time we'll all be here, and that gets greater as you go through life. And this is just going through, let's just say, going through regular life and bullshit crap like elementary school and high school. How about leaving behind an entire reality system that potentially you've been in for thousands or tens of thousands of years, and an aspect of you knows you're done? Oh, you think you're going to be a little bit sentimental? Yeah, big time, big time. And I would think that is what's happening. Okay, that is this wave of emotion. And it's not like, oh, Bell hit this piece of cardboard back and forth, and I'm gonna save it, and I'm gonna get a tear in my eye over it. It's not because of the damn piece of cardboard, or even because of Bell. It's a collective realization that every little experience, it's the last time. It's the last time. So just picking up this pen on whatever day this is. This is June. What day is it? June 17th, I think it is, 2022. Um, Someone would say, "Well, Matt, you're living life. You're not going to ever make it to 2022 again. You're not going to live to 100 and some years old. So why wouldn't that be sentimental for your neighbor or your father or your cousin? Because if we've talked about this, you're just because you were born of your parents, they might not even be real the way you are real. They could be the youngest of souls with thousands of more things to do, where you're an old soul ready to get out or ready to do something else. And it doesn't matter just because they're your parents. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. So my father in terms of the sentimentality that I'm talking about, I would say is incapable of the type of emotion and whatever we're talking about here, whatever the reason may be. NPC, young soul, whatever. We don't know. We'll never know. But he's not going to pick the pen up and like this is the last time because if you know attached to your spiritual self that you've got a thousand more aspects of you have a thousand more things to do in this sort of reality, it's not sentimental. You can do it thousands and thousands and thousands more times. But if it's the last, that's where the emotion comes, in my opinion, and the sentimentality. So let's see if we can find other examples of this. Um, okay, I've talked to my Tony, best man in his wedding, or friend from high school, not about this stuff, but about this one example that I'll kind of bridge into what we're talking about here. Um, Tony and I were very much into the same music. Well, we all kind of were. 92, 93, 94, 95 through 96, this grunge movement. We were into Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, the singles, the movie CD soundtrack, Smashing Pumpkins, offshoot bands like, oh gosh, I don't know. These are it's been a while. I don't want to just, hold the video up for that. But the big bands, and it was a great time in music. Even offshoot bands was like second and third tier bands like Candlebox were good, but not nearly as good as the big guys. So I've talked to Tony and I've said, how come, we're going through this grunge movement, and as great as it was, why didn't two things? Why didn't we appreciate it more? We just listened to it and we loved it, but we had no real appreciation for it as the way I would do now. No, no, in other words, that appreciation comes knowing that all great music would, over the next 2 or 3 decades, would be completely destroyed and completely wiped out. So I was saying to him, like, I wish I would have appreciated it more. I liked it, but why don't I have it's still, why didn't I have the appreciation? And the other thing I was saying to him is, why didn't we revisit bands that we liked 10 or 15 years before that? Why didn't I bring my Van Halen collection down or whatever band I might have liked in high school? Why was it just the grunge? Because, and I'm not saying this very well, guys, so I'll try to wrap it up as soon as possible. The reason we both kind of agreed on was because we had learned that we had been taught that it's not the end. That's relates to what we're talking about now. That there would be, there were great musical movements in the 70s and the early 80s, and Rush in the 80s, and then, Van Halen, whatever your interest may be. Of course, you may like or not like what I'm talking about. Then grunge came along, and we thought, well, what holds in the past will hold in the future. There will be five, six, seven more great eras of music to look forward to. So there is no appreciation because, if it's your last bite of meat, then it's the last bite to savor. If you think you're going to go to the buffet every day for years and years, you don't savor the last bite. We didn't know it would be the end of rock and roll music the way we know it. I know the Chili Peppers and things have done a few things since then, but it basically was the end. Whatever the Beatles was an era of rock and roll, and then your even hair bands. That Greg was really into that. I know that's ridiculous to many of you. Hair bands like Winger and Warrant and um, you know Kiss and um, Poison or Motley Crue. But that was an era, and they just kept coming, and then it stopped. And you don't know it's going to stop. You think they're going to continue to come, so there is no real appreciation for it. And I'm sorry if that's long-winded. So that what we're going through now is it's over, and we have no way of ever proving that to ourselves. We have no way of knowing. We sense it. We sense potentially this is the last time we're going to go through a reality experience like this. We can never prove it, but I believe that your conscious brain is aware of very little, or whatever I'm using to speak to you in the spellcraft of English is aware of very little. When we sense things, gut feeling, gut instinct, inner tuning fork, inner knowing, all that comes to us through ways that the thinking part of the brain can't sense. We're more aware of it than anybody else, but even so, we still can't put a finger on exactly where it comes from. But we can feel the emotion, the waves of emotion. And I'm sorry if I'm long-winded, guys. I mean, it's Friday night, and how do you just hit record sometime and try to talk about this stuff. It's tough, okay? It is tough. So I'm not going to re-record that. I don't know how it came out, but if you're not sure, it's better return to simplicity. I believe personally, uh, my spiritual aspect, I'm done here. I believe that, and maybe what you believe you take into death. I believe I'm done. And I don't know how many times it's been done in the past or being done simultaneously. Hundreds, thousands, millions, tens of millions. There's certain Buddhists that believe every woman you ever walk by in the mall was your mother once. That's how many lifetimes. And these people, with these belief sets are not idiots. The ancient world had a degree of understanding that far surpasses us to a magnitude of like a million. So there's a reason for these types of belief sets. And, one of the things Tony always he stressed to me is that, I said the analogy of we're just some little aspect of higher self, like insignificant. The higher self doesn't want to jump in the ice cold river with the big chunks of ice floating, so it sends you in. Like in Audi, the innies to the outies in Apple Severance, like it's going to screw you. You're just a little finger. But no, he said, he stressed to me, um, no, you're important. You important. You kind. You special, you important, and you higher self needs you to exit the game, to bring all aspects of itself out of the game. You're essential. You have to help convince it and convince yourself we're done here. We're walking out. We have the power to do that. Your higher self, it's almost like he almost described it like the higher self truly is bound into these systems until the little aspects like you and me can give it what it needs. Like it just can't, it is very important that you come to certain realizations. So he said, no, no, don't ever think you're just a little pinky being used. You might be being used by higher self, but you're necessary. And if its pieces don't do the job, I mean, the higher self is kind of screwed. That is what he stressed to me. And again, I don't. How would I know what he's telling me is right, wrong, neither here nor there? But what do we have? We have this in our DNA, inner knowing, inner tuning fork. And, nobody can bullshit us anymore. We just know. He'll say something and I'm like, yeah, that's right. But how do you know it's right, Matt? How would you know? What reference book could you go to? I know I don't need no. That's what I'm saying. Do your own research is ridiculous. He would say something and I would just say, yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm what I'm not. I don't teach anybody anything. I just remind you of what you already know. That the great um, people in truth aren't teaching anybody anything. They're good at reminding people of what they already know, um, which is, and maybe to bring up things that, would not normally be brought up, or things like that that society would want to squash. I mean, society would laugh at this conversation we're having now. Don Lemon would laugh. If the more Don is even around anymore, that loser, the more he'd laugh, or that he's a representation like Anderson Cooper of society. The more he'd laugh, the more he'd say, "Well, we must be onto something." If society's mocking it, with a few exceptions. I mean, if you just walk through the double doors of Walmart, just slathering feces all over you, so they might not like that. That doesn't mean that's a good thing, but you know what I'm saying. If it's generally laughed at, in the type of sense and things that we're talking about. So I personally believe if I know deep down I'm done here, and it's not just fooling myself, no, I can feel it. I can feel it. Then everything um, becomes special. What is it? Just hit me. The Brad Pitt, one of the greatest scenes from Troy with Brad Pitt, when he says to Proseus, she says, "I could have forgiven a dumb brute. You're not a dumb brute." He says, the gods envy us, And this is relevant to what we're talking about now. I need to. I'll try to interpret it in a second. Let's just go through the scene. Um, the gods envy. I'll tell you. He says, "I'll tell you a secret. The gods envy us because they're immortal and we are mortal. Because we are mortal, everything is more beautiful. Because every moment may be our last, everything is more beautiful to us. The gods envy us." Okay. Now, there's a lot of different ways to interpret that. The way literally the way Brad Pitt's saying it, or whatever your religious sense is, God sent aspects of itself in to have this type of experience when like Q, the Q continuum, as is presented in Star Trek, is bored off its ass. Have you ever seen the Star Trek? I guess it is Janeway, and that's Discovery, where the Q comes back, and I forget what happens, but to lead up to it, I'm just going to make some stuff up where might say, "Why do you do all this stuff, Q? And you cause trouble. You're like he's like Loki, and you constantly making trouble." And then you have this person, the other Q person, they're all these godlike beings that they can snap their fingers and a planet just appears and disappears, and they make trouble for Captain Picard and for Janeway, and they're like little gods. They can do anything, you know. And just, I mean, literally, like, and he just could, he could just Q make a second moon appear, makes a second moon appear. I mean, they can do anything. So, like, why do you cause all this trouble? And you have another member of the Q continuum you won't even let die. He wants to commit suicide. And they're like, well, why do you want to commit suicide? It's like, let me show you a representation of what the Q continuum looks like. These godlike beings show Captain Janeway and the people on the Enterprise, or what was it called, Voyager. And it's just this barren wasteland, and there's just some guy rocking, reading a book, and tumbleweed, and they represent it as a western desert with nothing to do, people bored, and you're like, what are you showing me here? And basically saying, when you've read every book there is to read a trillion times over, when you've done everything there is you need to do, when you've experienced everything there is to experience, at least in this environment, then what more is there for you? And that would be the position like Brad Pitt, the gods envy us, when aspects of ourself has done, this is a very Alan Watts philosophy, when it's done everything there is to do, seen the same movie, not 100 times, 100 trillion times. When was the beginning of the existence for this being? There was no beginning of existence. It always has been. So trillions of years is not even, that's not even a little leap forward. When it's read every book there is, when it's done every possible sensation, then in Alan Watts' philosophy is it would create reality systems to send aspects of itself into the reality so it could have experiences. And so somebody yelling or throwing the rubber ducky said, well, if that's the case, Matt, you done and your higher self done with these systems, be careful what you wish for. There is an element, to keep that on there. We should keep that on the table as well. But it doesn't mean it's all or none. Once we leave this reality, our higher selves return to that boring continuum or the representation of the Q continuum in Star Trek Voyager with everybody just rocking in a chair, bored. There's nothing. There could be a whole there could be millions of things to do out. We don't want to. We're just done with this Earth, with this bullshit, with the game the way it's played here, and the things here that just at this point just disgust us. We don't. So I don't want to speak for you. I don't want to. I mean, this place. Maybe there's another reality system I might be interested in my own choosing, but it ain't going to be this place. Okay. Most of us agree this is just we're done with this place. Even though there's still some heaven here that we can hold on to and we can find. It's not all negative. But Brad Pitt says the gods envy us because everything could be our last moment and it's more beautiful. Yes, that is so. That's where the sentimentality. Sorry it took so long, back to the nostalgia waves going over people, the emotional waves flowing through people, people breaking down, crying over seemingly nothing. Somebody I talked to the other day, who's a good friend of the channel, good friend of mine. He just was honest, like how tears will come to my eyes, and is it possibly a midlife crisis? And I mean, no, No, it's a higher self spiritual crisis that's probably been brewing for what we would consider, hundreds of thousands or millions of years or whatever. Maybe no, it's like there's no midlife crisis. We all know we're done with this reality system. So the nostalgia and sentimentality that would create would it would be beyond any level of emotional state we could ever experience just by being sentimental about something in this reality. And there's probably a governor on it of some kind where water is squeezed through a little so it drips, but it's like oceans and oceans of water. But it's just if it were to be able to flood the true sentimentality or emotion of being done with an entire reality system, that who knows how long we've been doing this, and there's got to be a governor on it. It would like psionically blow your mind out, probably. Just end up like literally rubbing something on yourself in the bathtub, and they take you away in a white van. Um, you know, there's got to be a governor on it, but it hits me. I mean, almost every day. I mean, something. I'll still mourn for Cooper, and it's not. He has Cooper. Gouda's his brother. I'm watching Pam's Gouda Cooper that Magda drew for me. Um, he's been gone for about a year, and I get very sad when I see his pictures and all the stuff I have around the house. But see, I know it's not that. It's not me. It's not. Don't let the symptoms fool you as to what's really going on with you, in my opinion. It's not me mourning Cooper. Well, in a way, I am. Of course, I miss him. But Cooper's just a representation of me mourning what we started talking about initially. The old reality is gone. And not just that, from our spiritual perspective, all these realities are gone. So if I might tear up and see Cooper's picture, I guess parts of myself would want to fool myself and be like, I shouldn't still be, crying over that cat. And I know it's Cooper. Cooper is of course I do miss him, but it's allowing me to express something that's 100 million times greater, the aspect of what we're experiencing, and I'm experiencing that through the morning of Cooper, or you know, you pulling back up an old TV show from the. So in other words, I think most people are misinterpreting their nostalgia for the last century, the nostalgia for a way of life in the 80s, or the Waltons, or whatever life could have been. I think I would say, to close this video, I would say don't be fooled by that. I think that's a simple way to interpret it. I believe it's almost like a trick. I believe that's just a symptom of something much, 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 much greater that's going on with us spiritually, that we have to put the explanation between our reality bookends and find a way for it to make sense. So all these emotions and crying at the drop of a hat and all this stuff and sentimentality, nostalgia, well, I must just miss the old life and I see they've robbed me of it. Maybe they've robbed us of it to hide why we're really, but maybe that's a stretch. But so the only way, remember at the end of my Philly Captain video, I said, he's interpreting this because he has to make it fit in his reality bookends. He has to say this, if this wasn't a national news story, there wouldn't be hundreds of cops out here. But Philly's got to make a good showing because it became a national news story. It's like, no, he has to do that because he has to make sense of it. We're not immune to this. We do the same things. We have to make sense as to what's going on with us emotionally. So they've robbed me of my past, and that's what I long for, and that's why I'm. No, think of it in terms of like the really big issues potentially that I've presented here that may be right, may be wrong, but I think be careful when something that's going on with you may be a small symptom of something much, 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 much greater. And guess what? As usual, every bit of it is all good news. Every bit of it is good news. Matt, you just say this shit to make yourself feel better. Believe what you want. Believe what you want. All right, guys. I can't. I'm not re-recording that. I have literally. I know I'm all over the place, whatever. But just try it sometime. Put record and just try to talk about this stuff. It's not easy. It's not easy. Um, so I'm not re-recording. I hope that came out okay. And it'll, if not, it'll continue to be refined. Thanks, guys.